Alright fellas, your favorite Nightfall is back in the rotation, and that is the Proving Grounds Strike. Now this is one of the more challenging Nightfalls, although I actually really enjoy it. It is one of those Nightfalls that I wouldn't expect to get less than 20-minute runs. We did optimize in the previous seasons and got down to like 17-minute runs, and I think some other people were able to get that sub 15, maybe even sub 14-minute runs. So it's possible, but for the most part, it's going to take you somewhere around 20 to 30 minutes to do a complete run. And that is, of course, if you are optimizing. Now, for my folks that saw us getting double loot earlier today, that is not the case. Actually, Bungie Help actually said that that was a mistake, and they have since removed the double loot for this week, which is super unfortunate. However, we're still going to make a guide because I know some of you are going to be doing this Nightfall. So first up, modifiers for this week is Scorched Earth. Enemies throw grenades significantly more often. Fellas, that modifier right there is going to annoy the piss out of you. If you can, rock things like Concussive Damner, maybe even a Solar Resist mod, because these grenades, especially if they stick you with one, will kill you. And I'm not even sure if a Solar Resist plus Concussive Damner mod would actually save you, at least from a direct stick, but it can at least keep you alive if the nade is tagged up around you within that proximity. Champions this week include Unstoppable Champions and Barrier Champions. We've got your normal modifiers such as Champion Mob, Extinguish, Match Game, and this final modifier, Ignovin's Challenge. And I know I'm probably killing that word, but it increases incoming splash damage. Also, knockback damage and distance also increase. This one modifier is going to make you rage. And I normally don't do cheesy things, but today we actually did it. We lowered our frames, and I noticed that I was actually staying alive. We made this video last week where essentially the higher your frame rate, certain weapons can kill you quicker. However, if you lowered those frames, you can stay alive. And I stayed around like 69 frames, but for the most part, you want to go down to 60. And if you can live with going even under 60, you can go sub 60, but for the most part, just staying at 60 frames will actually help you stay alive. And I hate recommending this to begin with because I don't like tampering with settings literally ever, but in this scenario with that specific modifier which increases that splash damage, you're going to want to drop those frames down ever so slightly to deal with them. Now loadout wise, the optimal strat here really hasn't changed much from what it was when Proving Grounds was the Grandmaster before. Subclass wise, we actually rocked 2 Chaos Reach alongside a Revenant Hunter. Both my Chaos Reach users, Fallout, Noja, Les, we were swapping out teammates today, but they were all rocking things like Focusing Lens. And I would essentially just apply stasis abilities, whether it was through my super or through my neutral abilities, synergizing with mods like Resonant Siphon. That stasis ability being applied though would increase their damage when they would pop their super. And Chaos Reach Geomag is actually still really good in this Nightfall, despite the nerfs that Geomags had received. Now, Elemental Shields this week includes all of them. You're going to be tasting the Rainbow, Void, Solar, and Arc. I actually was rocking Vex Mythic class, some Blinding Grenades on Ignition Code, and I was swapping between 2 different weapons, and that was actually Royal Entry, which is this rocket launcher right here, not a bad roll, as well as this Threaded Needle. Now, Threaded Needle synergized better here for me because I'm also rocking Particle Deconstruction, and so Vex Mythic class to immediately apply that debuff to then swap over to Threaded Needle to shred down my opponents, which does massive damage against bosses, champions, etc. The only reason why I even tried out the rocket launcher is because rockets really are one of the best ways to deal with interceptors. Interceptors in this room right here will be the most annoying thing you have to go up against. Really, for some reason, they can just snipe you with extreme precision. I'm talking perfect aim precision. These interceptors can get you. So a rocket launcher that has some tracking, Royal Entry being a precision frame, was able to deal with them at least a little easier than me trying to snack shots off with my Threaded Needle. However, if you got a team that is helping you with those interceptors, Threaded Needle really is the way to go here. Pretty much any linear or fusion rifle that you got is the way to go. Now, the loadouts that Fallout and Les were both using, as well as Noja and Les, was actually a little more surprising. Fallout actually started using Arbalest, which we just talked about how good linear fusion rifles are with particle deconstruction, and of course, since I'm applying it to pretty much everything with Vex Mythic class, Arbalest really was the play here, guys. No, it doesn't have anti-barrier rounds equipped yet, as that'll be a default thing for Arbalest in the future, but where Arbalest sits now, it was doing a lot of damage. That in combination with other linear fusion rifles like Threaded Needle, these were essentially the loadouts that Fallout was using, as well as Les was using, and we even did it in our run with Noja. Now, Les was actually using an auto rifle Shadow Price with Disruption Break, and I would say if you have that role, you want to have Disruption Break, as that's one of the best perks against barrier champions. And they were both rocking Geomags and your normal stuff, things like Charge with Light, anti-barrier mods, Unstoppable Fusion Rifle mods, etc. The only other thing that they were rocking though that made a big difference in last week's Nightfall as well as this week's is Power Preservation. Again, this is a stasis mod that will supply more orbs based on the kills that you get with your super. You can imagine this with something like Geo Gil Mag, Chaos Reach, how many orbs you can supply to your teammates. And the chaining capabilities do stack with double power preservation. And I pretty much always have my super, and with fragments like Whisper of Bonds and my Whisper of Conduction, Chain, and Rhyme combos that allows me to stay alive, Touch of Winter, Grim Harvest, all these things essentially allow me to constantly have some stasis ability up, as well as recuperating my super. Now, jumping into the Nightfall itself. Fellas, Proving Grounds is one of those Nightfalls it can take you 40-45 minutes to do. But the more and more you understand this Nightfall, the faster you're gonna get at it. Starting with the opening area, you actually wanna go up to the left side, go right up here to that cliff, look over, and tag that unstoppable champion. Upon dealing with that unstoppable champion, move over to the barrier champion, kill that barrier champion, and then continue moving up past the pipes. Do not concern yourself dealing with all these ads, just move right on past them. You'll then move up to this left side area. Make sure whatever turret you come across, because there'll be one waiting up here for you and some other ones in the back, they will shred you extremely fast. So deal with those turrets very, very quickly. Now this area right here, you're gonna have some ads kind of coming towards you, as well as an unstoppable champion. You'll deal with that champion as well as the ads that are around it. And upon dealing with this champion, the doorway at the top will open. Now the ads that come out of here will be a number of different ads, a boss included, as well as unstoppable champion. My advice is always to deal with the unstoppable champion here first. Go ahead and tag him up, kill him while he's all the way in the back. And for my Aeon Gauntlet users, which is what I'm using right here to perform finishers for my teammates and provide ammo, don't worry. You'll have many opportunities to provide ammo for your teammates and get those finishes off. So don't kill yourself trying to get those champions way out there. Now Valis will be out here, aka Mike. You want to go ahead and start killing Mike and bring that health down about 50%. Upon getting him down to 50%, the doorway that's right next to you to your left will spawn a bunch of ads. Normally I would just drop like a dust-filled grenade in there and may even drop some blinding grenades just to go ahead and blind everything that's trying to come out of that doorway. And the beautiful thing about blinding grenades is they'll actually blind enemies that are still behind the doorway. So you're going to be hitting more than just whatever is outside of the doorway when you shoot your blinding grenades up in there. This is the champion though that you do want to always get the finish off, since it will be singled out and that will refresh the ammo for your teammates. Now this next part is an area that is normally a major problem for a lot of players. And what you want to actually do right here is you want to move kind of to the right, deal with the ads that are out there so you don't get snuck from behind, which used to not be the case before, right? Like usually I would just be like, yo, run up in there and just destroy the shield. But back in the day we had Anarchy, which we could just place 2 shots inside of that dome area and it would deal with that shield. What you actually want to do is you want to put that shield spawner in between you and Mike. Guys, listen to me. This is huge. Mike cannot shoot you if you're standing directly in front of the shield spawner. He'll just keep burning his shots into that shield spawner and you can stay completely safe and shoot it out without dying. The only things that can really cause you problems is of course the other ads that are in the area, but if you deal with them first and split Mike on the opposite side of you, you'll be able to easily take out this shield. And after taking out that shield, you'll go ahead and kill Mike, and now you can move up to the next area. Now the next area, this is actually a drop down room, and in my opinion the hardest room in the Nightfall, even harder than the boss room. If you can beat this room, you can beat the rest of the Nightfall. But deal with those ads up top and then drop down. Now some people actually like to go down underneath the bridge area, but that can get hectic, especially with interceptors about. Some people like to stay up top in the middle. That too can get hectic because everything can beat a shot on you from both the left and the right side. I personally find going to the right side to be better, or the left side. Just commit to one side or the other. And in this way, you can split the ads up and you can't get shot from every single angle. Of course, there's a lot of things in this room that can mess you up, including 3 interceptors, 1 on either side as well as 1 in the back. You've got snipers that are on the left and the right side that can easily snipe you. And you got a number of ads that are spawning in, as well as a number of champions. Guys, this is really going to come down to you and your fire team. And even though we're rocking 2 Chaos Reaches alongside a Revenant Super, which was extremely optimal, I do know that this room is a problem if your team cannot coordinate. And when I mean coordinate, I mean beat in on the same champion together. You're gonna have to be able to do that in this room. Now, I would actually use my super there in the middle, lock everything in place, and Les or Nosha or even Fallout would actually pop a Chaos Reach and clear everything out. Again, focusing lens is coming in clutch here. You want to deal with those ads though, deal with those champions. Don't worry about getting finishes off, and take your time afterwards to deal with the interceptors. It's really hard to deal with the interceptors first. I know you got champions that are in the back, so if they're in the very, very back and they're not trying to beat in on you, you, then you can deal with the interceptors. But don't try to kill the interceptor when a champion is right there in front of you. It's just a nightmare. It's a good chance you're gonna die. So again, deal with the champions and then move together to deal with those interceptors. Now, upon dealing with this first wave of ads, including a couple of champions, barrier champions, the interceptors, the snipers, and a mini boss in this room, this will then spawn 2 tanks, one on either side, a number of barrier champions spread throughout. What we normally do at this point is we just open up fire on the right tank. We just go ahead and just take it out, and that's just taking it out with our linear fusion rifles. I would normally get Vex Mythic class shots off. My teammates would then burn their linear fusion rifles into the tank, and you'll be amazed how quickly you can deal with that tank. Then I would normally pop a super kind of around the champions and some of the ads just to kind of lock them in place, and hopefully one of my teammates had a chaos reach to follow up to shred through those enemies with focusing lens. There is a methodical way of dealing with each one of these enemies, but my opinion is to deal with the most threatening thing in front of you. Deal with that first tank first on that right side, or if you're on the left side, deal with the tank on the left side. Then deal with the champions that are directly in front of you, including those barrier colossus. There's going to be one on the bridge, a couple mini bosses, and I wouldn't necessarily burn my supers, especially my chaos reach supers, to take down a champion because they're just so beefy. It's better to use those supers to take out all the ads and even some of the majors, and then focus fire the champions. But upon dealing with all these champions as well as the tank, you can get some finishes off at the end. You'll have like a mini boss to deal with. This is a great opportunity to go ahead and provide ammo for your teammates. Now, this actually takes us to the next room. This next room opens up with a mini boss there at the end, as well as an unstoppable champion and a number of ads. I actually like to just shoot an ignition shot down through here just to get some blinding grenades off, and then move out and start dealing with all these legionaries. There is a sniper that'll be on the opposite side. Deal with that sniper, and then to open the door, you actually have to pick up this orb. Now, you don't have to put that orb anywhere. You can actually just pick it up and drop it, and this will actually open up the door. And normally, we would save a super for this. This is a great opportunity for your Revenant Hunter to just either throw out a shuriken or even a grenade, just something to apply stasis there for your Chaos Reach Warlock to do that extra damage. But lean out, deal with this barrier champion that's inside, and upon dealing with that barrier champion as well as the turrets that are surrounding the area, have someone go and pick up that orb and put it in. This would then open the next door. Now, this next door opens up with a couple ads in front of you, as well as a number of ads on the opposite side, some turrets, and a barrier champion and mini boss. I actually like to throw my Revenant Super across. It locks enemies in place, it does some damage, it normally cleans up any of the red bar enemies, and then I can just focus with my teammates on the barrier champion as well as the mini boss. The main thing you want to make sure in this room, though, is to look out for the turrets that are hidden on the sides as well as across from you, because they will shred you very, very fast, even if you do have your frame rate dropped. Now, upon dealing with those ads, you'll need to jump across, pick up the orb, but again, you don't have to take it anywhere. You could just drop it, as the door behind you will now have a ton of ads spawning in. You can use the Chaos Reach to go ahead and clear out all those ads, and then after clearing out those ads, you'll have a barrier champion out there with a couple honor legionnaires. Deal with those enemies, and if you can, get a finish off, and then proceed to deposit that power core. Now, this actually opens up the next room. You do not have to save your supers here, guys. This will speed things up so much faster for you if you use your supers. Again, going into the boss room, when you activate the boss room, will immediately give you full super. So go ahead and unload, drop all your supers here, get some finishes off, deal with these enemies very quickly, and then move into the boss room. Now, the boss room is not a room you want to stay too static in. You'll activate the boss room there in the middle. The boss will immediately spawn and spit out those fireballs, which, by the way, track pretty aggressively. Shoot them out, and then proceed to start doing damage to Kaido's warrior. Now, you'll get little sound pings when he actually pings in enemies. It's in that moment that you want to have a super ready. Like in this situation, we barely got his health down, and he's shooting out fireballs, and we also got Cabal that are trying to drop in on us. Do not get overly conservative here. Pop a Chaos Reach just to deal with these trash ads that are coming in on top of you, because them in combination with those fireballs can easily wipe your team. Now, upon dealing with that, you'll continue to do damage until Kaido's warrior is about 2/3 health. He will then spawn 2 unstoppable champions. One will be directly to your right if you're on the left side, which I definitely recommend that you stand on the left side, and one will kind of spawn out in the middle. Obviously, deal with the one on the right first, get a finish off, and then proceed to focus on the one there in the middle. Now, this next part is a little more difficult. I mentioned earlier how shooting out these shields used to be so much easier with Anarchy. Well, that's not the case anymore, and this boss will continue to just shoot these fireballs at you the entire time you're actually trying to shoot out the shield. Now, I think Fallout said eventually the boss will quit shooting fireballs, but I don't want to wait that long. And I would actually suggest you and your entire team to equally go up to the shield area to take out the shield. And if one of you happens to get the aggro for the fireballs, just drag them away. And this should leave the other two teammates to move up into the shielded area and deal with that shield. Now, upon popping that shield, you then want to go ahead and cycle down to the doorway from whence you came in. You'll have a number of VADs spawn in, as well as the boss out there. And I normally like to drop a Revenant Super out there just to lock everything in place, and then continue to do damage on the boss until he's down to a third of his health. Now, when he gets down to a third of his health, he will actually jump up to that top area and he will shield it. And two unstoppable champions will spawn. One will come from the right, the other one will come from the left. Now, warning, the unstoppable champion that's on the right sometimes will immediately spawn right next to you. So whoever it is that has unstoppable rounds, be ready to immediately stun. But this is actually a great opportunity to get finishes off with those enemies and champions getting closer and closer to you. Bait them all the way to you, because if you get too close to them where they spawn, the fireballs will then track to you. So you want to still stay and hug yourself to that doorway. Now, after dealing with those champions, you then want to move up and deal with this dome. And what I actually like to do is just jump up, get a shot off, and drop back down. Don't get overly risky here, guys. You don't want to die up top. And if the fireballs are tracking you, when you drop down, you can run straight through that tunnel area. The fireballs will continue to track you even underneath there, but just make sure you jump on the sides here as to not get burned. And then when you get to the other side, you can just jump right on up and continue to do damage to the shield spawn. Now, after dealing with that shield, a number of VADs will spawn in and the boss will drop down and start playing extremely aggressive. I'm talking coming for your head. Obviously, you want to pop every super you got. Now, realistically, you don't want to burn every super into the boss. One of the Chaos Reach supers needs to just primarily take out all the ads that have spawned in, and the other Chaos Reach super can deal with some of the ads that are still left, but pretty much just do damage to the boss. But really just cycling away from the boss, getting particle deconstruction on him, and popping him with linear fusion rifles is really the best damage here. So guys, that is Proving Grounds for this week. The Swarm as well as the Palindrome are both dropping. No, it is not double loot, which is unfortunate. However, double loot should be back next week. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.